森哲さんから英語学ぶメリットがあるんですか？モギさんから英語学ぶメリットがあるんですかね？英語で考えましょう。こんちくはカイ先輩です。アメリカ英語のグーグー。もし君がもっとアメリカ人みたいに喋れるようになりたかったらね、今週の生放送のオンラインセミナーに登録してください。ねえねえ、君の目標は何ですか？英語で喋れるようになりたい？ほんじゃ、英語で考えましょう。So let's think about this clearly, okay? What's your goal? Is your goal to speak English? Or is your goal to get a job or go to college, right? If you want to study TOEIC, then that means your goal is to get into college or to get a job or something like that, right? But that goal has nothing to do with whether you can speak English or not, right? So what's your goal? That's really an important thing to determine. And if your goal is to speak English, then listen up, okay? You don't need to do TOEIC. You don't need to learn it. You don't need to read about it. You don't need to watch videos about it. You don't need to talk to Mori Tetsu about it. You don't need to do anything about it because taking the TOEIC test has no direct correlation with how you speak, right? Now, maybe it does because, you are learning words and stuff like that, but it's not necessary, and that's a fact. So, seriously, if you want to speak English, right? Please, you don't got to take TOEIC at all, right? And if that's the case, that means your goal is to speak English. I would say then 100% that you have nothing to learn from Mori Tetsu-san. That's right, I said it because his specialty is TOEIC. So if you want to do TOEIC, then go ahead, listen to them. Listen to how you take a test and strategies and blah, 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 right? But if you want to learn how to speak English, then there's nothing to learn from him that you can't learn from 1,000 other people. You know what I mean? Look, if you think about it from the other way, right? How did I learn Japanese? I didn't learn Japanese by listening to Americans. Right? I learned Japanese by listening to thousands of Japanese people. So if you're going to learn English and you're going to learn how to speak English, right? I think it's better that you listen to 1,000 English speaking people and you really don't need to give Mori Tetsu-san any more of your time, right? But again, if your goal is to get into college, get a job, then please take TOEIC. Please listen to Mori Tetsu-san. Listen to what he has to say, okay? But seriously, if you're going to learn how to speak another language, there's no reason to spend any more time listening to his materials because you would be better serving yourself if you could just listen to native speakers speak natively, if that makes any sense, right? I mean, you guys are listening, right? You gotta listen to real people talk in real English and at a real speed that's realistic so that you can actually hear other real people who speak English natively so that you can hear what's actually being uttered, right? You don't need any of this textbook English, classroom English, this slow way of speaking. You do not need to listen to English that is slow. What you need to listen to is real people speaking in real speed. Am I speaking slow? Yes, I am, because it's kind of the point that when you listen to TOEIC English, it's fake. It's not even real English. It's only heard in a classroom. You're never going to hear that English outside in reality, right? So seriously, there's zero reason to learn anything about TOEIC because if you're not going to take the test, then there's no reason to basically do it, right? So I hope I made myself clear, right? Now, can we learn something from Mogi in relationship to English, right? Well, he is an interesting person because he's got this brain science thing going on, and brain science is a global phenomenon that everybody should be kind of paying attention to because our brains really matter, right? I mean, the way we think and the way we feel about things is super important, and the psychology behind all of that is super important stuff. And then, brain scientists are coming in with brain scans and stuff like this and science to kind of verify their theories on all these things. I really think that brain science is really cool. So Mogi-san is a really cool guy. I saw some of his TED Talk, and to be honest, his pronunciation is a little off, right? And he even says himself that he doesn't care about his pronunciation. So whatever, I understood what he was saying, right? There were a few words that warudo, that it was kind of hard to hear what he said, right? So pronunciation aside, Mogi-san is an interesting guy, and the work he does, I think, probably has a lot of benefit for humanity, right? But should you be learning English from Mogi-san? I don't think so. Obviously, you should be listening to him for his research on the brain and his theories about that kind of stuff because that's what his specialty is. English is not his specialty. If you listen to him, like I said, it's obvious that he's not a native speaker and he does make a few mistakes. And look, if you want to argue about pronunciation, we can, because basically, if you do make a mistake in pronunciation, it makes it harder for people like us, English native speakers, to understand what you said, right? It becomes kind of like a puzzle, and we don't want to play this puzzle. We want to hear what you say and we want to understand what you're saying, right? So, yes, in the international English sense, people are more forgiving, I'll say that. People are more understanding, they're more sympathetic, they're more empathetic, because a lot of bilingual people are more sympathetic and understanding people than monolingual people, right? So basically, Mogi-san's not incorrect, if that makes any sense, because you don't have to worry about pronunciation up to the point where people are understanding you or not understanding you. And I would argue that Mogi-san makes a few mistakes that make it harder for people to understand what he's saying. Now, is that a make or break kind of deal? No. I mean, like I said, we're empathetic and we hear him and we kind of forgive him, or we, understand, what he was trying to say, right? So there is no problem. But again, if your goal is to speak English, then my recommendation is that you learn straight from the source and you listen to real native English speakers talking in real time to each other over real circumstances and situations, right? So basically, how often do you talk about the brain, psychology, right? And how often do you talk about it in Japanese, right? So then you want to make it more complicated and listen to psychology and brain scans and stuff like that in English. Well, if you're up for a challenge, go ahead and do it, right? But I would recommend, if you're into brain science, psychology, and stuff like that, I would probably just listen to Mogi-san speak Japanese, because obviously he talks about the subject in Japanese, right? But if your goal is to speak English, then you probably should not listen to Mogi-san, because for the reasons I just outlined before, that when you have pronunciation that's slightly different than the normal, quote unquote normal pronunciation, we all know there's various ways to pronounce things, right? But basically, if it becomes too hard to understand, that's a problem for everybody listening, right? And I would recommend, rather than be lazy, we should work on our pronunciation so that everybody can understand what we're saying, right? So basically, Mogi-san, his English is okay, right? He obviously is fluent in English, but there's no reason to learn English from him. I would recommend that you learn English from native speakers. Go directly to anybody, really. They don't even have to be a teacher. You could just be going down the street at a temple or some kind of tourist trap or something like that, and then you could listen to like real people talk in reality, and that would be a more powerful lesson than listen to Mogi-san speak English about the brain. I'm just saying, let's efficiently use our time. Let's learn what we need to learn from the people that we need to learn, right? If you're going to learn about TOEIC, go ahead, go to Mori Tetsu-san. If you want to learn about the brain, go ahead, go to Mogi-san, right? But if you want to become bilingual and learn how to speak English, right, maybe you should learn from somebody that's already learned a second language and has become bilingual, right? そうしたらさ、今の英語の動画を全然聞き取れてなかったらね、ぜひね、カイ先輩の無料の3ステップ学習法に登録してくださいね。英語ネイティブを聞き取れるようになるっていう3ステップ学習法ですね。パチパチなんですけれども、君の英語のレベルはどうですか？今。自分の英語に関して満足してる？満足してないか？じゃあ、勉強方法を変えないといけないんですね。文法勉強しないでください。英語の先生聞かないでください。教育英語勉強しないでください。ほんまにバイリンガルになりたかったらね、ぜひ今週の3ステップ学習法に登録して、一緒にサトルを開きましょう。こういうレッスン好きですか？カイ先輩のチャンネルに登録してください。もっと英語で考えろというシリーズ見たいんですか？コメントのところに教えてください。起立、礼。ではまた今度よろしくお願いします。